Namaskar. Myself Dr. Deepti Bisht, Professor, Department of Kaya Chikitsa, Faculty of Ayurveda Sciences, Jyoti Vidyapeeth, Women's University, Jaipur. Today in this session for class BMS 4th year, I am going to discuss some important points regarding bronchial asthma. So first we will start with the definition. As you know, what is asthma? Asthma is an inflammatory disease of the smaller airway which is characterized by episodic reversible bronchial obstruction due to hyperresponsiveness of tracheobronchial tree to a multiplicity of extrinsic and intrinsic stimuli, and it is manifested clinically by number 1, paroxysms of polyphonic wheeze, second, dyspnea, and third, cough with sputum or without a sputum, and all these symptoms may be relieved spontaneously or as a result of therapy. So, 2 or 3 important points from the definition is that it is an inflammatory disease. Second, there is hyperresponsiveness of tracheobronchial tree. And third, the process is reversible if we take appropriate measures. Now, if we can see here normal airway is there and the airway during the asthmatic attack is there. In normal airway, musculature, airway wall all is in normal condition and the passage is almost clear. Whereas during asthma symptoms, we can see the airway is narrowed. There is limited airflow which is due to the constricted muscles which results as a result of hyperresponsiveness. Second, they are inflamed and thickened airway wall, which is also a result of inflammation process going on there. And also there is accumulation of mucus. So all these factors together make the airway constricted and this results in breathlessness. Now coming to the types of bronchial asthma. Generally, we have 2 types of bronchial asthma. First one is extrinsic asthma, which is also called early onset asthma or atopic asthma, usually seen in childhood, occurs in atopic individuals, that is the individuals who release immunoglobulin E antibodies in response. It can be identified as skin sensitivity test, and often other problems are also associated in this type of asthma. These are eczema, allergic rhinitis, or urticaria. Second type is intrinsic asthma or late onset asthma. Non-atopic asthma is another term. It can occur in any age, especially in later adulthood. There is no role of allergens in this type of asthma. Now, etiological factors. There are some inducing factors which which are responsible for the generation of this kind of disease in some persons, that is chromosome 11q. Second, maternal smoking plays very important role. Third one is recurrent viral infections or rhinosyncytial infections in infancy can result in the tendency of hyper-responsiveness of the tracheobronchial tree. Then the exposure of allergens in infancy, like the continuous exposure of dust, smoke, or some chemicals, can result in episode of bronchial asthma in later life. Then another factors are precipitating factors. These are the factors when a person having bronchial asthma is exposed to these factors, he suddenly gets the complaint of breathlessness, dyspnea, cough, and constriction in the airway. These precipitating factors are infections, which can be viral, bacterial, or any other. Then allergy may be an important factor. Certain drugs, certain food items, sometimes exercise can induce bronchial asthma. Psychogenic factors may be there, like stress, anxiety, or depression conditions. Then some occupations involving use of some chemicals or dyes or pesticides or insecticides. These all can become a precipitating factor. Then condition like GERD and some environmental factors are responsible for causing bronchial asthma attack. Now, what are the pathophysiological mechanisms behind this process? First of all, a person having the problem of bronchial asthma is exposed to allergens. As a result, these allergens, or we can call them antigens, they attach with mast cells. As a result, histamine is released. Histamine release results in opening of tight junctions in respiratory epithelium. As a result, antigen reaches the deepest layer, and there antigen antibody reactions happens, and there is massive release of mediators like prostaglandins, leukotrienes, platelet activating factor, thrombopsin, A2, etc. There is infiltration of mucosa with these factors. As a result, bronchoconstriction occurs and mucosa becomes edematous due to infiltration of these factors. And also then there is afferent nerve stimulation and reflex bronchoconstriction take place. As a result, the attack of bronchial asthma precipitates. Now, what are the consequences? As a result of all these factors, bronchial smooth muscle contraction happens. There is denudation and deformation of epithelium, which results in formation of heavy mucus plugs, which obstruct the airway, ultimately causing more problem towards breathing. Then airway remodeling is there, which is evidenced by smooth muscle hypertrophy and hyperplasia. That means there is thickening of respiratory muscles. Goblet cells and submucosal glands, which are found in these in the mucosa, they get hypertrophy, leading to mucosal hypersecretion. And there is collagen deposition, again causing thickening of lamina reticularis layer, cellular infiltration, edema, and ultimately airway wall thickening. All these results in severe episode of asthma attack. Now, what are the clinical features? Clinical features are cough. It may be associated with sputum or without sputum. Then there is breathlessness, widespread polyphonic high-pitched wheezes, that is multiple kinds of sounds from the respiratory tract can be observed. There may be expiratory wheeze in condition of mild bronchoconstriction. In moderate type of bronchoconstriction, inspiratory and expiratory wheeze both are seen, and in severe cases, the chest becomes silent. Now, management approach in asthma. First of all, as we have seen, the first line of defense which takes place is a release of mast cells. So, prevention of antigen and antibody reaction is a must. Then there should be suppression of inflammation and bronchial hypersensitivity. It is done with corticosteroids. Prevention of release of mediators is done by the use of mast cell stabilizers. And antagonism of released mediator is done with some drugs, which are leukotriene antagonist, antihistaminic, and platelet activating factor agonist. Blockade of constrictor neurotransmitters is done with the help of anticholinergic drugs. Some dilator neurotransmitters, which are known as mimicking agents or sympathomimetics, are used again for dilatation of this bronchotracheal tree. And directly acting bronchodilators are used, which are methylxanthines and beta-adrenergic agonists. They together play very good role in controlling the episode of bronchial asthma. A choice of treatment in bronchial asthma, first of all, if there is mild episodic episode, then inhaled short-acting beta-2 agonists are sufficient to control the condition. If the person suffers from seasonal asthma occasional, then regular inhaled chromoglycolate should be given with low dose of steroid, that is 200 to 400 mg per day, 3 to weeks before anticipated season, and it should be continued till 3 to 4 weeks after the season. And if there's some heavy individual episode, it should be controlled with use of short-acting beta-2 agonist. And if there is mild episodic asthma with occasional exacerbation, then regular inhaled dose of steroid is sufficient or alternate inhaled chromoglycolate can be given, and short-acting beta-2 agonist can be combined with them accordingly. If asthma is moderate and exacerbations are frequent or more often, then we should increase the dose of inhaled steroids. It can be increased up to 1600 mg per day. And inhaled long-acting beta agonist together with short-acting beta agonist are also used. If there is severe asthma, then regular inhaled steroids in the dose of 800 to 2000 mg per day is given, and it is combined with long-acting beta-2 agonist or sustained release theophylline, that is direct bronchodilating agent, or oral beta-2 agonist or inhaled ipratropium. All these salts or all these drugs can be used individually or in combination forms according to the condition of patient. Now then there is a condition of status asthmaticus. Condition of status asthmaticus occurs when there is heavy episode, there is severe breathlessness, patients become comatose or excessively exhausted, then immediate or emergency treatment is required. For this, hydrocortisone hemisuccinate in the dose of 100 mg that is given intravenously, and this is followed by 8-hourly infusion of the same, that is hydrocortisone. Together with this, intermittent nebulization is done for this salbutamol with ipratropium, that is, and both the salts are used for instant results. Together with this, intermittent humidified oxygen is given for proper oxygen saturation. Then salbutamol or terbutaline, these are sympathomimetic agents. They are given in the dose of 0.4 mg subcutaneously or intramuscularly. If there is an history or evidences of any kind of infections, then these infections are treated with usage of proper antibiotics. Hydration should be corrected, IV line should be set up, and if there is evidences of acidosis, it is treated with sodium bicarbonate. Now, drugs for asthma. Mast cell stabilizers which are used for this are ketotifen 1 to 2 mg BID or 0.5 mg BID in children. Another mast cell stabilizer is sodium chromoglycolate, which inhibits degranulation of mast cells. It prevents release of mediators and administered as aerosol through metered dose inhaler in early conditions, or if the episode is just beginning, these two drugs can play efficient role. Second is use of steroids. They reduce bronchial hypersensitivity and prevent mediator release. So these are used as first line agents. Budesonide and fluticasone, these are two salts which are used usually. Now, bronchodilators. The bronchodilators which are used are beta-2 adrenergic agonists or sympathomimetics, salbutamol, terbutaline, which are short-acting, salmeterol, or ciprenaline. These are long-acting beta-2 adrenergic agonists. They relax the tracheobronchial muscles. And anticholinergic, for this, ipratropium is used mostly as inhaler. And methylxanthines, which are direct bronchodilators and act directly on respiratory musculature. These are blocking adenosine receptor. Inhibition of phosphodiesterase is done by them. Examples of methylxanthines are aminophylline, etophylline, and derifylline, etc. These have narrow therapeutic range. Within therapeutic range, they follow the first order kinetics. At higher dose, it becomes zero order kinetics. So sometimes there is toxicity of methylxanthines in some patients, so methylxanthines should be used with precaution. Now then there are sympathomimetics. These are adrenaline, very useful in acute attacks, and short lasting and immediate effect is obtained with this adrenaline, and it can cause palpitation and increased BP, so should be used judiciously. Ephedrine is another sympathomimetic. It has got both alpha and beta action. causes anxiety and palpitations. So again, should be used cautiously. Salbutamol for MGTID is generally used and it can cause muscle tremors and palpitations. So these are some of the adverse effects which should be watched carefully while treating the patient of bronchial asthma. So all these important things we have learned for the treatment management of bronchial asthma together with its pathogenesis and etiology. Hope you like the session. If you have any query or any suggestion, you can ask me on the portal. Now I am ending the lecture. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.